Legend has it there is a land where knights battle for honor, where dragons fly through the air, where you can experience your wildest dreams or your darkest nightmares. It's time to live the legend of Camelot.
In 1933, a gentleman called George Few took over Park Hall and turned it into sort of a leisure complex, and that's when leisure really took hold in Park Hall. He couldn't manage it, he couldn't keep the upkeep of it, so he decided to sell it, and he sold it to a gentleman called John Rigby.
I decided that we needed a northern theme park, but for children. It wasn't meant for, teenagers and adults, It was purely going to be. So we started work.
Armed with coasters galore, Camelot opened the fort for business in 1983. It was at once a vibrant hub for families and thrill-seekers alike, instantly transporting guests back to the times of King Arthur and the Round Table.
Well, I was here when it first opened. It was seen at the time as being quite a good thing. It brought a lot of people in to the area.
There was nothing like that around here. It was purely, it was just fun. It was just the best place to go, and it was a really good day out.
Don't have many memories of the first time we went, apart from it being quite an overwhelming place.
Behold, my magical kingdom of Camelot!
Yeah, when you used to pull up at Camelot, the first thing you saw was this castle. That was kind of the thing that always hit you.
It was really nice to come in and see the big castle, which was the icon of Camelot, and you could go inside the castle.
And then it just kind of got a bit weird.
You entered the park down the water slide, which was really fun, especially when you're with your friend, because you can race your friend down the water slide.
They had something called Pendragon's Plunge, which was like a 4-lane sort of water slide. So it was a really thick smell of chlorine as you walked around the park. So it was like a mixture of like awful greasy food and chlorine. It was every kid's dream. And Camelot did really well because they had Camelot, so they were literally pulling in the whole Knights of the Round Table thing and, everything steeped in history. You were met with theming here and there, as in you could see like dragons. There was a dragon that used to pop out and breathe a bit of smoke. And they'd sort of tried to, go with this kind of Camelot theme.
At night time, we went into like this King Arthur's hall where he had like a medieval banquet.
We used to have things that you wouldn't get away with anymore, like dwarf throwing, chucking, they called it. They loved it, and they loved getting paid, because it was like acting, because they all acted as part, going around with snakes and around the tables and things like that. We had the Camelot idea, and then we just turned everything round and built new things to do with Camelot, and after a couple of years, it became totally Camelot. Total to do with dragons and knights.
A very medieval style, that's one of the things I always remember. And sadly, one of the things you do remember is the smell of the horses.
I mean, it smelled horrific.
It had the jousting show, which I thought was really well put together.
I put seating down either side of the valley, and they used half of that seating for the jousting.
You'd have the goodies and then you'd have the bad jousters all dressed in black and on a black horse.
From a jousting perspective, and whenever they did a show, that was always really well done.
You could just watch the horses running up and down, the Lancelot and all the rest of it. You'd have your lunch, you'd see the birds of prey show, and then you go over to the farm and then back on the rides again.
The zoo type thing that it was, the little farm, it was kind of popular, but It was more sort of like the cute factor. They had like, I think there was chickens, goats, I think there was some pigs at some point, and you could go and buy a little bag of feed, which why you would buy, I don't know, because within 10 seconds, one would come over, rip a little hole in the bottom of your bag, and all the food would just fall out all over the floor. That they would have them there anyway. And I think the little motive of it was, well, we've got these and we don't pay electric for these, so we can just let the people go down there and we don't pay any extra.
It lost the Camelot theme, if you like. I don't just mean the theme park, I mean the Camelot theme. At first, everything was bright, and I think the people who worked there wanted to work there, and they put their heart and soul into it. And then eventually everything just got worn down and nobody took an interest, and it showed.
There were rides that had just sort of closed. There was no, you could still get up to them, and they were just sat there with like weeds growing out of them, and you know, there was no signage to say, sorry, we're closed. It just sat there. And yeah, it really was a weird experience to just walk around this park and go, okay, what is there to do now? Like, things are just closing all over the place, but they're not actually taking them away or putting something new in their place. They're just sitting there gathering dust. The park knew that they were more in the way of families and sort of younger visitors, but I think they tried to make it appeal to everybody by putting in some thrill rides and things.
They invested more and more money in the later 90s in the bigger rides. Then there was quite a lot more. There was more roller coasters there. The site itself seemed a lot. I remember feeling quite busy. I think it was probably in the heyday of the park at that time.
1984 saw huge developments for the site, including the additions of the infamous The Beast, Tower of Terror, and, of course, Excalibur.
There was an Excalibur 1, which nobody really knows anything about, which was basically just like it was like a pirate ship sort of boat swing that actually went all the way upside down. And then they replaced it with Excalibur 2.
A thrilling new ride has risen up. Excalibur 2.
I think it was called Excalibur or Excalibur 2, and used to sit in these cars that span round.
One of those rite of passage rides where when you were a little kid and you went there with school, all the kind of like brave ones would go, yeah, we're going to go on that, and they'd go straight there. And then there were the others that were like, I'm never going on that, or maybe I'll go on that next year. And so I think it kind of had that status of being the scariest ride in the park.
More terrifying than ever before.
I thought that was quite a unique ride. I've not seen one of those again since.
I liked The Beast. That was the one that was in the dark. Oh, I loved The Beast. You'd go through this little corridor, and it was all like rock and things, and sparkly, and all the sounds as you walk through, and you get onto the platform. It was probably dead basic when you think of it now, but you get on, and then the lights went out, and oof, you were off, and it was all loops and twists. It was like a roller coaster, but just in the dark. It was just fantastic. And then they changed it.
Camelot soon removed Tower of Terror to make space for a brand new, one-of-a-kind coaster, In Vertigo.
I didn't get planning. I didn't go for any planning. I had a leisure use on it with Arena North, and I just built it. You can put anything you want in there, in Camelot.
However, planning permission was denied.
They were restricting the owners of Camelot in saying, well, no, you can't build a new roller coaster that's going to bring people to the area. As for the reason behind the council doing the things that they do and saying the things that they said, I don't know.
I think it was 30 metres, something like that, 28 metres. I'm pretty sure that's why they got turned down for the ride.
In the early 2000s, the park took a turn for the worse.
There was a bus that was full of staff. They had 2 buses that would go to neighbouring towns to pick up staff and drop them off. And one of the coaches was making its way out of the car park, and it was a young boy, 5 years old, and he just ran in front of the bus. It was too late for the bus to slam on and avoid him. The other incident on the Gauntlet was very nasty, if you were there.
Apparently a worker got hit by the Gauntlet when he was doing some maintenance on it.
They had called a code 1 on the Gauntlet. He shouted over to the rides operator, send an empty train. So the train's going along, it's going up and up and up and up, and he still stood by this loop. Some people have a different opinion on what happened next. Some people say that he was fully decapitated. Others say that he was just pulled into the side of the train and that is what killed him. But what we do know is that people were around to see what happened.
The scary thing about what happened to the guy who got killed on the Gauntlet was the health and safety executive came in and did a full kind of investigation and discovered that there just weren't any written procedures for staff at all.
Bad press can impact the theme park quite a lot.
Reputation is a really key thing for theme parks, so keeping a good reputation with the public, making sure that you're seen as a family-friendly attraction is really important. And therefore, if you start to lose that with bad press, that's one of the most detrimental things that can happen.
Things started to look up with the investment of a £3 million ride.
And in its very later years, they tried one kind of final nugget of, let's make this work. And they bought this roller coaster from, I think it was a park in Japan, called Nightmare.
Your ride on Nightmare is about to begin. Here we go.
You'd hear them testing it during the day. And then there was a particular incident where they were sending a car around, or a train around, and they kind of got it up to a certain point and then it rolled back.
When a roller coaster valleys, what it means is that it's not able to make its full journey. And so what it does is it basically just falls backwards and then just kind of does this until it loses momentum, and then it just stops in the middle of like a dip. And it shouldn't happen, it should never happen, because coasters should always have enough momentum to get around the full track. And obviously if it does happen, it's an operational nightmare.
2012, the year that ended it all. Camelot drew up its drawbridge for the final time.
He just came in one day and he said, "Mum, have you heard? Camelot's closing." And part of me was surprised, but a bigger part of me wasn't, because the writing had been on the cards for a long time. It was sad to think that something like that had gone, finally.
After the theme park closed, the council said, "We need it kept as leisure land. You are not building houses here."
In order to be able to do anything with that site, they would have to be licensed by Natural England. There are many issues. There are 7 different kinds of bats. There's a maternity bat roost in one of the buildings. Bats will go away, but they will come back, and you're not supposed to destroy their habitats.
Let's not get into all the details.
No,
I
know, but the thing is, this to me,
there's a pile
as
of
much
them
as much as Alan's is a lot to do with the planning and the schools, etc. My thing is very much that it should be a park. Right. If it's going to be anything, it should be a park, not housing.
Currently, King's Story and his Knights of the Round Table have lost in their battle against Chorley. However, what does legend hold for the land?
I would love to see it be put back to being an outside space that people can go and enjoy.
I'm worried for the future of the site, because I know the history of the site. I really would like it to continue as a leisure site, and I wish something could be put in place that meant it couldn't be anything else but a leisure site.
They need to put money into it and bring it back.
The park closed in 2012, I think. Well, where are we now? 2019. Nothing's happened, so why is anything going to happen?
Ideally, somebody could go in there and invest some money back into opening it up with, some fresh ideas for what it could do now.